The air is cool and still, the kind that doesn't bite, but merely exists, present, unhurried, unchanging. Our traveler finds himself on the edge of a quiet street in old London sometime in the early 1800s. The fog sits low, hugging the stones like a blanket left on the floor, unattended but familiar. He looks down. The cobblestones beneath his feet are far from uniform. Each one tells a tale of small, uneventful wear. Some are slightly rounded, worn smooth from decades of slow, careful footsteps. Others have tiny chips, one edge a little more fractured than the rest, and between them, thin threads of moss grow timidly, as if unsure if they belong. As he takes his first step, there is no sound of bustle, no rush of purpose, just the faint whisper of his soul brushing against damp stone. The rhythm is slow and thoughtful. His foot lands, then pauses, then the next, a pattern of hesitation and intention, repeated again and again. To his left, a row of low buildings watches silently, their bricks faded with soot and time. The windows are closed, but not curtained. The glass panes are slightly fogged from the inside, with shapes behind them that neither move nor call attention to themselves. They just are. As he continues walking, his eyes follow the ground. One cobblestone is slightly higher than the rest. He steps over it with mild care. Another is sunken just a bit, collecting a small puddle the size of a coin. The water trembles faintly as he passes, disturbed not by wind, but by the nearness of movement. He does not speak. There is nothing to say. He simply observes the soft sheen on the stones, the faint imprint of a cartwheel long gone, the way the fog lingers just above the ground, refusing to rise. And in this quiet moment, this gentle beginning, he walks on toward nothing in particular, with no need to arrive quickly. After several careful steps down the cobbled path, the man comes to a slow and deliberate stop beside a tall iron street lamp. It stands there, not proud, not forgotten, simply there. The lamp is old, not in a dramatic, decaying sense, just quietly aged. Its once black paint has faded to a dull charcoal, flaking here and there, where time has insisted. Near the base, a patch of rust blooms slowly, like a faint echo of fire that never burns. The iron is cold to the touch. Not that the man touches it, but he can sense it, as one senses the chill of morning through thick wool. He tilts his head and looks up. The lamp's glass enclosure is smudged on the inside. A fly once got trapped, it seems, and left behind tiny marks on the glass, as it searched for an exit it never found. One corner has a streak, not cleaned in months, or perhaps years. The faintest yellow glow flickers behind the haze, not enough to light the street, but enough to remind passers-by that it is doing its job, however dimly. A small creak comes from the lamp's narrow top, where metal joins metal. It's not constant, just every now and then, when a gentle breath of wind stirs through the alley, like a sigh. The man does not rush on. He simply stands. He watches how the fog softens the outline of the lamp, making it look slightly fuzzy, as if someone were still drawing it in pencil, a shape not quite finished. His eyes trace the long, vertical bar downward, past the decorative curls at the middle, down to the bolts at the base. where a piece of paper, possibly a notice or a forgotten bill, has curled against the pole, made soggy by the mist. He remains there, still, without any need to move forward just yet. There is comfort in stopping for no reason, in watching something that does not change. And so, he stays just a little longer, beside the iron street lamp, in the quiet of a street that expects nothing from him. He continues down the street, his footsteps slow and rhythmically dull. The fog lifts slightly as he turns a quiet corner, revealing the front of a modest little shop. It is the local baker's. He does not enter. He only stops at the window, an old pane of slightly warped glass, framed by flaking green wood. A fine layer of condensation clings to the inside surface, save for one small semicircle, cleared by the baker's palm earlier that morning. Through it, the man can just make out the soft shapes of loaves resting on the wooden racks. Inside, everything moves slowly. The baker, a stout figure dressed in white, is gently dusting a row of round buns with a pinch of flour. He's not in a hurry. Each motion is deliberate. He places one bun slightly to the right, adjusts another, so the spacing is just so. A cloth hangs over his shoulder, untouched for now. The window display is humble. A few long loaves stacked like quiet sentries. One loaf has a slightly darker crust, baked just a moment too long, perhaps. Another has a crack across the top where steam escaped in the oven. Each is imperfect, and yet, together, they form a peaceful pattern of purpose. The man tilts his head slightly. He notices how the wooden tray beneath the bread is worn smooth in the middle, but splintered lightly at the edges. A bit of flour has collected in the corner. Too little to sweep, too much to ignore. The scent of baking lingers faintly through the gaps in the door frame, warm, yeasty, and calm. Outside the window, a small fly lands briefly on the glass, then lifts off again. There is no drama in its movement, just life happening slowly. The man watches the baker wipe the countertop, a round, practiced motion, over and over, cloth against wood, dust, turn, repeat. No conversation, no sound but the soft brush of linen on oak. After a few long moments, the man steps back from the window, not because he is finished, but because nothing here insists on being seen. It is all content to simply be. And so, he moves on. The man now approaches the crossing of a narrow lane. There are no carriages, no urgency, just a space to cross, bordered by stillness on all sides. He stops, first at the edge, not because he must, but because it feels proper. He looks to the left. Nothing but fog and the distant outline of a chimney. He looks to the right. A cart stands still, its wooden wheels resting awkwardly in the groove of a rut carved long ago by heavier traffic. The horse is gone, perhaps tied somewhere out of sight. A puddle has formed in the deepest dip between the stones. It is no more than a handspan wide, but it holds a perfect reflection of the dull sky. As he steps around it, slowly, carefully, his foot brushes against a soft pile of fallen leaves, matted by moisture, their edges curled inward like sleeping fingers. His crossing is not a single, swift movement. It is a sequence of gentle decisions. Step forward, pause, look down, adjust angle, step again, He takes care not to step in the deeper rut filled with grit and water. His heel hovers, then touches down softly beside a flattish stone, worn smooth by years of hooves and wheels and rain. A pigeon, unbothered by his presence, struts ahead. Its feathers shift with each step, showing flashes of dull iridescence. Blue, gray, almost green. The bird makes no sound, just a light tap with each toe on the cobbles. Halfway across, the man stops again. There is no reason to, but the stillness of the place invites it. He observes the cart's wooden frame, the wheels or spokes, slightly warped. A fraying length of rope dangles loosely from the side, swaying gently, not from wind, but from memory. Then, without urgency, the man takes the last few steps to the other side. The crossing is complete. Nothing has changed. But somehow, the air feels a little quieter now. Just beyond the lane, tucked neatly between two low stone buildings, stands a narrow shop with a wooden sign hanging above the door. The sign sways very slightly on rusted iron brackets. Its lettering, once sharp, has faded into a soft blur. See Wellingham, stationer and scribe. The man approaches slowly. The door is slightly ajar. It does not creak as he pushes it open. Instead, it emits a soft sound like an old drawer being pulled from a desk that's long outlived its makers. Inside, the air is warmer and heavier, scented with the faint aroma of paper, candle wax, and something faintly musty, perhaps old glue or the slow decay of ink. The floorboards underfoot are uneven and respond gently with each step, more of a sigh than a creak. To the left, rows of parchment rest on shallow shelves. Some sheets curl at the corners, others are perfectly flat, their surface so still and pale, it seems the light itself refuses to disturb them. A few have small tiers, neatly taped with yellowing strips. The edges aren't aligned. One stack leans just a little, like it gave up trying to stand straight years ago. Behind the counter sits an open wooden box filled with ink bottles. The bottles are not all the same. Some are tall, others squat, all cloudy with dried drips at their mouths. Their corks are crumbling softly, like bread left out too long. Beside them, a quill, not a fancy one, just a simple feather, a little bent in the middle. The tip is darkened with dried ink. It rests across a strip of blotting paper, marked with faint blue ghosts of words written long ago and now forgotten. The man does not touch anything. He simply looks. Slowly, he notices the dust that has settled along the window ledge. Not a thick dust, just enough to dull the shine. In one spot, someone has traced a lazy swirl with a fingertip, months ago, perhaps. The swirl is still visible, faint and meaningless, but pleasing. Behind the counter, a narrow shelf holds bound ledgers. Their spines are cracked, some titles faded to near invisibility. One ledger leans against a small jar filled with dried-out nibs, each shaped slightly differently, each long retired. A tiny fly buzzes softly near the ceiling, then disappears behind a support beam. The man closes his eyes for a moment. He inhales slowly, then exhales. Nothing more is required here. He turns and steps back outside, gently pulling the door closed behind him. The shop remains as it was, unchanged, untouched, unhurried. The man now wanders to the far edge of the narrow street, where the buildings thin and a low stone wall marks the beginning of a canal path. It is quiet here, quieter than before, if such a thing is possible. The canal lies motionless, not frozen, just still. The surface holds the sky like a mirror, half believing its reflection. A faint ripple stirs now and then, not from movement, but from memory. Perhaps a fish turned in its sleep, or a breeze changed its mind before arriving. A wooden bench sits just a few steps from the water, its legs uneven on the compacted dirt. The bench is old, but not in need of repair. Its weathering is honest. The wood is dark and veined, the iron arms speckled with rust. A small vine grows beneath it, climbing exactly nowhere. The man sits, not all at once, but in stages. He lowers himself, adjusts his coat. The bench gives beneath him, ever so slightly, with the soft complaint of old timber. He folds his hands. Then he does nothing at all. Across the canal, a narrow boat rests, tied neatly to a rusted cleat. It floats just enough to seem awake. Its hull is dark green, with the paint flaked near the waterline. A name is painted in cursive script, but the letters are dulled by time. A coiled rope rests on its roof, arranged as if someone had taken great care to make it look like they didn't care at all. The man watches. A single leaf drops from a tree behind him. It lands silently on the canal's surface, floats, spins, stops. Behind him, faint footsteps. Someone walking with a cane, perhaps, but they fade quickly into the same quiet the man has carried with him all day. He looks down at the water again, still, a reflection of chimneys, a passing gull, the softest trace of cloud. Time here does not pass. It lingers. He remains seated, and there, beside the unmoving water, with no need to go anywhere and no voice to urge him on, he simply continues to sit. The silence is not empty. It is full, full of old London, full of softness, full of the comfort that comes from being surrounded by things that do not ask for attention. The man closes his eyes, and nothing happens, which at last is exactly enough.